It's the NFL in London podcast, Super Bowl hangover, although it's been a week.
I think I am still recovering, to be perfectly honest with you. I think my soul died a bit that weekend of drinking and partying.
It was a pretty intense weekend for those our NFL in London fans. We went away to a Airbnb that was a former pub near Canterbury. Had its own, pool table and pub in the basement and hot tub, and we really did it up. We
It was a
that
beautiful
was a
day.
couple day hangover. It was gorgeous. The game, I actually didn't drink that day during the game, so I actually remember a lot of it. Because
Okay,
my
good.
body
Well,
at that
you
point,
could
my body was just like, I think I'm done with the drinking.
Yeah.
So I stopped drinking on Super Bowl Sunday, and that allowed me to focus a bit and eat a lot of food. I mean, let's be honest. If you were to give it a grade from A to D or whatever, what would you rate this Super Bowl in terms of how it went, how the game played, and everything?
I mean, you got to give it like a C minus at best. I think. I think that's being a bit generous. I just think what it did was, I think if you're a Patriots fan, it was like every single fear that you had about what people have been saying, what people have been talking about, all of it. And it all came to fruition in a beautiful disaster of a way. Everyone talked about the same things. It was Drake May, were they a product of the schedule? Of just beating up on bad teams. Never really, even though they did play some good defenses, not being able to, they didn't have the weapons. You had a classic, my favorite part of it was Stefon Diggs having a classic big game Stefon Diggs game of 30 yards.
Yeah.
Spinning the ball with 2 minutes left after he makes a catch, which is hilarious. And there's like literally the game's already over. It just felt like Mike Vrabel was just so outcoached that game. I think that's what I was so shocked about, like just how lost they looked offensively. They couldn't get anything going, no matter what. The way they were punting on 4th and 1, they punted on 4th and 3 with like down 2 scores on their own 40. It's like, what are you doing? It's a Super Bowl. I thought I was watching Mike Tomlin at his most Tomlin-esque, just doing these cowardly punts, and it just looked like a team that didn't trust Drake May to make the plays that he needed to make. And then you saw there was stuff about the Seahawks saying that Will Campbell gave a little tell because he was like shaking in his pants every time it was a pass play. And they said they saw Will Campbell shaking. Whenever he was shaking, they knew it was a pass play, and they just went at him. He had an all-time bad game. For them, he
Hard on the
gave up
rough, that one,
14 pressures giving up, and I just think it was one of those things where you don't even know what this is going to do to you next year, because you were so outclassed in every aspect of the game. You actually looked like you didn't belong to be there, which is everyone kind of said that you didn't really deserve to be there. I think any AFC team would have given a better fight, it feels like, and that's what we'll talk about the Patriots. I'll let you talk, and then we'll talk about Seattle. But for me, I worry about like what this does to the confidence of this team. I think again, you will never have an easier chance to get to a Super Bowl. We see, and how many times have we seen the thing of when a team goes to a Super Bowl or a young quarterback and they lose early, they almost never get back. Right? We've seen it with almost never. I think Jalen Hurts is one of the only ones who's kind of been able to do it. We've seen Joe Burrow still can't even sniff the playoffs since. Josh Allen hasn't even gotten there. Neither is Lamar. So I just think it was such a missed opportunity by the Patriots. But I mean, you were playing with house money in a lot of ways. So I mean, you can't be upset. You still have bragging rights over the Bills. You can talk shit to us. You got there before us and all that, and that's all fair. But man, that is, if I'm a Pats fan, I was like, that's as bad as it could have been.
Yeah, it was a meh game, and I agree with you. It's either a C or a C minus in terms of the game itself. There were many cases, to your point, that I think Seattle had the ability to put this away, and they just couldn't. They were, as much as they had the commanding hand in this game, there were opportunities where this could have turned to a blowout, and they didn't. So I think there was instances on both sides where you're like, what are you guys doing? Like, do something. And they're not. Campbell, you feel bad about the guy afterwards. He couldn't talk to anyone. This rookie, for whatever his legacy is going to be, and it's only his first year.
I mean,
this was a lot of bad pressure on him, and he did not look good. To your point, they were flying all over him, and you go, do you replace this guy because he's your liability right now? To me, it was just one of those games where you're going 6-3 into the half, and this is a baseball game. I think we had talked about that this would be like a baseball game score probably at the half, and we were right about this.
It was
which totally let Bad Bunny down. But we'll talk about that. I just found as a game, we knew in the second half of the game it was going to turn up quite a bit. And it did. In the fourth quarter, they were flying a bit more, but it still just felt like, this would have been a better game had the Rams been in it. It didn't feel like
it definitely
this was a definitive game. And then also, I think to your point, where it's like, I think this is the last time, we're not going to see these two teams in the Super Bowl in the next 5 years.
No.
I think this was their chance. I think Seattle obviously losing their offensive coordinator, but this was one of those games where it felt like there was a bit of a hiccup, that there was just a lot of teams that didn't sort of make it. Look, they made it through, whether it was on the benefit of an easy schedule, but it was just one of those. I still didn't feel like I was watching the two best teams in the NFL. It felt a cautious game. It felt like they just, Seattle had the upper hand, but it didn't feel like it was a great game.
No, like right off the top, like first few drives, Sam Darnold was looking like he was trying to throw interceptions. Like every drive, they were throwing these like ones where the Patriots like a millisecond too late. Christian Gonzalez made huge plays to kind of stop it, and Sam Darnold was bad that first half. Like he's picked it up a bit in the second half. Once they lost Jackson Smith and Jigba, it really just said, listen, I think. Funny enough, Kenneth Walker going into his contract year, having that game, kind of basically got him a big payday. I mean, I don't see how you can let that guy go. He was an absolute warrior. He kind of put that team on his back. From the get-go, he was running hard. He was making them hit. He's just been, again, I think it's this idea when teams always have that like two-headed monster, like they had Walker and Charbonnet, and you always have 1-2. And it feels like as soon as one of them goes down and the other one gets to be the top dog, they just flourish.
Yeah.
And I thought Kevin Walker was better as when he's just kind of on his own as the top dog. There's a great story about his dad it's his first game he ever went to go see his son play because he was so nervous that he's like a jinx. And even Kevin Walker was just that dude, like they were just all business. He's just right after the game, it's like going home, staying with my family, not going to the clubs. Arnold too. I mean, I think Sam Darnold's I think you got to take a couple minutes and just give Sam Darnold his flowers. Like a guy who's who's been, going to the Jets, which is a death sentence to most quarterbacks. And it's just kind of, we're
Panthers
kind
of,
we've been so stuck in this like, oh, you got a rookie quarterback, you got a rookie quarterback on a rookie thing. This is the time to win a Super Bowl. And everyone has this like strategy. It's like, but no teams on rookie quarterbacks almost ever win the Super Bowl. Mahomes like the only one who's done it in the last like 10 years or something. It's just not. Russell Wilson did it a long time ago, but it's not really a thing anymore. It's, to me, what's better is instead of paying a quarterback $65 million, let's have a kick-ass defense. Right? Let's have a kick-ass defense that terrorizes you and a good running game, and don't have to worry about making 70 million. I think you're going to see a little bit of a switch from this so desperation of we gotta pay like the contracts. Like people are gonna be like, do we pay Tua that 55 million? They did it because they had to, right? But are you telling me that Miami could go back? They'd just be like, no, I'm gonna go find a guy who's 30 million. Or maybe you could find a guy who's just kind of been flourishing, waiting for his moment. So like a guy like Mac Jones, maybe. He's a guy who could put him on a team with a good defense. He's a smart player, played with Shanahan, and it's like that little Shanahan pixie dust that went on Darnold that went to Minnesota. So I thought it was a great story. I think Sam Darnold's a super likable guy, a great kind of quarterback who just showed that he never let it, as down as his career went, from seeing ghosts to just playing with Baker on the same team at one point and just absolutely just getting tossed around everywhere. And I just thought he was fantastic the way he didn't turn it over, and he still played smart, even though at the beginning he tried to. He played smart, he got it under control, and he won that league. And I'm genuinely, I think even Jets fans are probably, cheering for Sam Darnold. I think everyone was.
Yeah, I think, we've talked about this before about the rush of teams and the league to put the onus on these rookie quarterbacks when history has never shown us that this is the case. Like a good stew, you got to let it simmer. These you would never have like Rodgers. I mean, he sat on the bench. Quarterback sat on the bench. You have to learn the speed of the play. You want to learn the plays. You want to learn your team. It's a big adjustment coming from college, particularly, the way that college, the speed of it all and these NIL deals and this hype to actually really getting hit by grown men and learning the speed and cadence of everything. To your point again, it's like they are going to have to maybe take a step back. And even in the case of like Caleb, our friend Ryan Andrews and I talked about it. Why not sit him? And I know the fans, you can't bench a piece of gold like that. It's like, well, you can, and
Well,
it's fine to let Tyson Bagent cook because it did take Caleb a year to really get into it. It took a coach. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, Rook, you know what? It's too fast. Let's just sit
yeah,
down. I think the coaches have to be able to have the levity from the owners to be able to say that. And the fans just have to shut the fuck up.
yeah.
This is the way it is. We're not going to rush this kid. We're not going to get him gun shy. We're not just going to have him splattered all over the field. And in some cases, you worry with someone like Joe Burrow or Herbert.
Well,
If you
just
rush
someone
them
like
too
JJ
quickly,
McCarthy. JJ McCarthy is the
yeah,
perfect example. Like, what is Minnesota must be looking at this being like, okay, we can't just toss this guy aside, right? Like, look at what
yeah,
and and I think if Kevin O'Connell's that good, and I think you're going to see teams now less knee jerk reactionary. Like stop
yeah.
with the social media. Like yeah, Stroud had that great rookie year, right, where he took him to the playoffs. He was unbelievable. He's been terrible since. And so, yeah, the Baker was amazing as a rookie year. Then he had really a couple bad years, and now he's great again. It's just, I mean, I really hope this makes NFL teams sit up and be like, no, we got to nurture this kid. We can't give up on him. You go. I think every quarterback has to get 2 years. If you draft a guy, you got to give him 2 years to start. And if you can't do it after 2 years, I think it's fair to say maybe even with Sam Darnold, it wasn't his fault. You gave him Adam Gase. The guy was
Yeah.
screwed from the beginning. Like, you gave him Adam Gase, and no matter what. So it's like again, if the Bears didn't move on from Eberflus and get him Ben Johnson, like Caleb probably would have gone down the Darnold route of just being like a disaster. And I think if you're getting a quarterback, like I think the Vikings saw that and was like, we cannot bail on JJ McCarthy. You know, I think the Saints are going to see that, be like, we got to give. Or what was it, Sloth, or Sloth, whatever his name,
Sloth. Yeah.
Shook on
Shook. Yeah. Shook.
on the Saints. They got to give him a free run, a good year and a half. Give him some weapons. Give him a little bit of offensive line. Let him cook. Let him grow. And I really hope we see that, and less of just, oh, you're bad after 3 games. Let's get rid of you. Like I hope we stop that.
There is something, and I mean, we've talked about the Ginger Ninja Dalton, about having that quarterback whisperer, a veteran on the bench who's also a backup that can try to steady here you go, Rook, just settle down. Because you worry that when you look at guys that seem to be perpetually injured, and I'm talking about Baker and Herbert and Burrow, that you sort of wonder, it's like, how are these guys going to heal? Mahomes obviously has got to heal next year off the ACL. So you wonder, like, you got to give these guys a little bit of time to heal. That the NFL is a relentless beast with an 18-game season where you have to perform at your best every one of these times. You wonder, though, too, in terms of the Sam Darnold area, you wonder if Minnesota's thinking, what if we just would have hung on to him
Well,
and
yeah,
had him mentor,
I'm sure
you
they're
know?
thinking that.
I'm sure, but I mean, now you sort of go and you wonder what that Minnesota team, like, obviously it was a tough division, but he had so many assets on that team, and you have Justin
It
Jefferson, you
was
have,
again, it was a
they were a
knee
good
jerk.
connection.
It was a knee
Yeah,
jerk reaction to those 2 bad games. He had 2 bad games at the end of the season, and you just quit on him. And you thought, like, oh no, he's just Sam Darnold. You can't trust him. And that's a failure of Kevin O'Connell. That's a failure of the GM, who's now been fired. The GM on the Minnesota's
yeah,
got fired over this. To be honest with you, like the owner's probably like sitting there watching this, losing his mind, being like, "You let this guy
yeah.
go, and we got 9 on the field, getting memed to death every single Sunday." I mean, I think this is the best thing that happened to quarterbacks in the NFL, was Sam Darnold winning the Super Bowl. I think it's a good thing for quarterbacks.
It is a good thing. And when we look at the second half of the game too, Drake May was the one who put up the numbers. He was the one who had 2 touchdowns, 295 yards, 27 for 43. It did take him a while to get into the groove. But, to the earlier point, I mean, there were 17 points by the Seahawks in the fourth quarter, 13 by the Patriots. It was a 30-point second or fourth quarter. when you look at it, a total, there was 43 points. 30 of them scored in the fourth. I mean, this is
Yeah.
when it really came alive for everyone, and we were all just like still in the Bad Bunny, like that was best halftime ever.
It
But I
was
mean,
actually pretty good. It was pretty good.
you
I
guys didn't
enjoyed
even
the
watch
Bad
it.
Bunny.
I was the only one who
I
watched it.
didn't.
I
I
was the one
watched it.
watching.
I saw it.
I
I
didn't.
watched the Bad
I
Bunny.
didn't really mind it. It was, but I just, when people talk, oh, it's the greatest one ever. I'm like, did you remember Prince? Because
Yeah,
that was
Prince is the best.
that was pretty much the top. As far as the game went, it just seemed like it was what's going to happen. I mean, 3 points in the third quarter. Matt Collins was the sort of number one for receptions, 78 yards. I mean, we knew, because we had said it, and I had said in the previous podcast that I thought easiest bet was Kenneth Walker MVP, because that's what they're going to do. They're just going to run the ball in you. And that's exactly what they did. We'd also mentioned in the previous podcast about Drake May getting over, probably sacked over 1.5 times, which he easily met. He looked like a frightened rabbit out on that field. That defense was relentless, but still, I just felt that, the Patriots defense did enough, but there was still enough.
Listen,
Kupp was coming up with some balls. Kupp was sort of being the number one. It just seemed like there was a lot of nerves in that game, and a lot of people were just hesitant.
It was, honestly, there's no sugarcoating it. It was a bad Drake May playoffs. Like, he was bad in almost every single game. I mean, he had the most turnovers of anyone in a playoff run, the most sacks of anyone in a playoff run. It was an all-time bad playoff run, and his defense were warriors out there. They were getting punts. So there was like 14 punts that game. They did everything in their power. And I think at least the Pats, they got some money next year. Their deficiency was always in the same way with the Bills. It was just weapons. Like, Drake May had to go with Butte and old Stephon Diggs, who's in legal problems, and his Cardi B's dumping him at halftime of the game. And it's just like, this is what you brought in. And he might not be on the team next year. So, I mean, the Patriots, they got a lot of cap room. They got to go out. They got to get Drake May at number one. They got to get another offensive lineman to get him some protection. The defense was solid, and I just worry. I think next year the division's going to be tougher. I mean, except the Bills. I mean, Miami and Jets will be terrible. But your schedule is going to be tougher. You got a first place schedule. You're going against the AFC North or the AFC West and the NFC North next year. So it's going to be just battles. So the Pats, I think that they're going to put up 14 wins next year. After that, I think the Bills and them are going to have a real battle for the playoffs. I think it's going to come down, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I think Bills Pats have been clamoring for this kind of rivalry for years. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun for the next couple of years.
Sure. And I mean, we also look at, you look at the Chiefs, who went down whimpering in this season. You have to assume with the squad they have and the coaches that they have, they're going to be back as well. I mean, in terms of the game itself and in terms of, for us staying up in England till the wee hours, it was good. It was the atmosphere. I think sometimes when you're with a Super Bowl, it's the friends that you're with, not as much as the game. And so we had a good time with that. And now, of course, the season is over. So we look ahead to some of the other big things. I mean, we start looking at some of the teams and some of the changes that have been made, because there's a lot of guys that are going out. I mean, Arizona gets rid of Gannon. They bring in LaFleur. Atlanta gets rid of Raheem Morris. They bring in Kevin Stefanski. Baltimore gets rid of Harbaugh, then brings in Jesse Minter. Buffalo gets rid of McDermott, brings in Joe Brady and another old man, Fox. Browns get rid of Stefanski, bring in Todd Monken from the Ravens, sorry. Raiders get rid of Carroll, bring in Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator for the Seahawks. McDaniel is gone from Miami. He's off to the Chargers. They bring in Jeff Hafley, who is a defensive coordinator for the Packers, which will be interesting. Dable and Kafka gone. Harbaugh is in New York. Tomlin resigns. Instead of getting fired, they bring in Mike McCarthy. We don't know about Aaron Rodgers. And Titans bring in Robert Saleh. It is an interesting in terms of, trade, what kind of trades are going to open up, because the trading opens up on March 11th. We don't know if there's going to be any big trades.
I think that's going to kind of be the story of the summer. If I have a prediction, it's going to be, we're going to see some trades. I think we're going to see a lot of trades. I think we're going to see quarterbacks moved. I think you're going to see, people trying to make a move for Joe Burrow. Maybe. I think Kyler Murray is going to get traded. Does he go to Minnesota? Does he go to the Jets? Does he go? I just think there's
and for how much money too, right?
I think receivers.
You have to wonder what your value is.
Yeah, we got Max Crosby who's probably going to be on the move. It's just going to be. I think it's going to be an absolute wild offseason. to be honest with you. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think it's going to be trades, left, right, receivers. People saying Justin Jefferson wants to go. Like, it's going to be wild. I can see some absolute stunning trades happening in the next. AJ Brown being one.
Yeah,
So it's going to be a lot of fun. I think the good thing about the NFL is it's never boring. The offseason almost as exciting as the season, to be honest.
It's interesting because I think a lot of times people, we have a loyalty to the players and the jerseys, but I think a lot of the jerseys and names that you have on there are not going to exist. You're going to have to get a new jersey for some guys. Because as you say, there's a lot of big players that have seen it or like, I want a ring. I mean, even Derek Carr has mentioned he would come back provided it was with a Super Bowl contender. And you wonder, but if you're looking for someone, if you're looking, say, look, you're not going to start, man, but we'll bring you in if it's a good team. Why wouldn't you want? With the amount of guys that go down, people are going to start looking at Carr. Halfway, 4 games in.
Joe Flacco's been a quarterback for like 4 years in a row, the last 4 years, right? So why not Derek Carr?
And where will Flacco end up? So it is interesting in terms of that, in terms of what's going to happen. I mean, we look at some of the dates coming up. Window opens on the 11th. Then we have the NFL draft, the 23rd to 25th of April in Pittsburgh. They have now, we're almost in March, literally it's midway through February. So we're getting almost, and it's a short month. The interesting thing about the draft this year, too, is the first round has gone from 10 minutes to 8 minutes. Which, a lot of people don't hang on. And then the season kicks off September 9th. We know that we've got a game in Melbourne on the 9th is going to happen in Australia, in Melbourne. And then France has got a game this year. I have New Orleans and Cleveland. Sorry, France. And then again, Christmas games, which again it's on a Friday, Christmas, so they'll probably move the Thursday games. And then next, a year from almost today is the Super Bowl, February 14th in LA. So, that's almost.
Do you want to hear my NFL conspiracy?
Okay, let's bring it on. Because, we're filling up this podcast.
Valentine's Day, you're going to love it. You're going to love it. There's only one quarterback who can play in the Valentine's Super Bowl. Do you know who
Brady.
It is? Jordan Love. Jordan Love in the Valentine's Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? I feel like it's kismet. They're going to want that so badly.
As a Bears fan, I think it's kismet because I don't think that's going to happen. Do you have any, before we sort of wrap this podcast up, do you have any bold predictions in the sort of off-season?
Off-season.
As we get into it? Yeah, just before we get, the trades, the trading is in less than a month. Any bold predictions to kick off things? And you know what? We've also started a rest season. I mean, for some teams, a rest season has already started because we know once the season ends, everyone, these guys get arrested. Any bold things takes on that?
I'm going to say, what I'm going to say. I want to say Joe Burrow. I don't think Cincinnati trade. You can't trade Joe Burrow. I'm gonna go Kyler Murray to the Vikings. I think Kyler Murray to the. I think if you're the Vikings, I think you got to bring in a challenger. I don't know if anyone really wants Kyler Murray, and I don't even know what you'd have to give up.
Yeah.
I wouldn't give up a first for him. So to me, I just think what we're gonna see is either a big name. I think we're gonna see like an AJ Brown going to the Patriots, maybe AJ Brown to the Bills, maybe. One will be Brian Thomas Jr. will be traded from the Jags. It's my one prediction. I say I don't know who's going to go to, but I think Brian Thomas Jr. gets traded.
Okay,
that's
I'm
going
to go Tua to the Browns.
I mean, they might just cut him. They
have a habit of making horrible decisions at quarterback, and why stop?
Shedeur and Tua.
Yeah.
Well, I think they're going to go with Shedeur another year. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. You still have Deshaun, right? He's still being paid.
That is true.
Just sitting there cashing checks. And
maybe Deshaun Watson to the Vikings. Maybe Deshaun Watson to the Vikings and has a little renaissance.
You're just throwing all the crap at the Vikings.
Yeah. Well, they're the only team that's kind of on the cusp that could still do something. So. Yeah,
but I mean, it's almost like, is it at that point too, where you just start, if people start offering you first rounders for Justin Jefferson, you start going, you know what, we got a tough division. Let's get rid of some of this gold and see what we can do with our treasure trove. Folks, that's it for our Super Bowl hangover podcast. This becomes a long, lonely months now as we wait another 7 months, 6.5 months actually, until the next season begins. Of course, Ryan and I will be here consistently with just making talk.
We'll find something to talk about. We'll find something.
That's what heroes do, and we'll be here to talk. Folks, thanks a lot for listening, and enjoy your NFL offseason. Don't tell your spouses that it's over. Tell them
Yeah.
it still goes on for a little bit.